Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Smash Dispatch podcast. That's right, I am one of your hosts. As always, Fidel, join alongside me, Mr. Ultimate Shadow X.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
I am excellent. Been enjoying Steve, still, even though it's been a while after release, still a fun character.
Yeah, no, he's super. He's one of those characters, whenever I jump in, I just want to play as him, which is, a good thing, as opposed to, Min Min or Byleth were okay, they were fun for that week they were out, and then it was kind of whenever if they pop in, I'll jump on them at some point.
Yeah, it's just, there's so much going on with Steve that, every game is, so different,
Yeah, exactly. And also, funny how, what's it called? You know how we got that Travis Me costume, and obviously, they definitely knew that a few weeks later they'd be dropping No More Heroes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they just shadow dropped the both No More Heroes on the eShop. That's crazy. Yeah. Now that I think about it, yeah.
Yeah. There's again, they always obviously they that's probably why this costume wasn't earlier or later, because they were you know what, we're gonna reveal this soon. Let's get people at least to be some people that were who is this character, to start talking about it, and then they could jump in and be oh shit, wait, that's that costume from Smash.
Yeah.
Oh my god. But yeah, so today actually we have something cool. Well, first of all, I wanted to read a bit of Sakurai's article, because he goes into some details about Steve, but we're gonna dive into a unique topic that I've wanted to do for ages, and I've never even gotten to talk about this in general, which is World of Light versus Subspace Emissary. So that's going to be a great talk. But let's start with this Sakurai column. So I'm going to read this. So this comes from Push Dustin. Always go follow him. He always has some good translations and stuff. So let's read a bit through this. So at 11 p.m. on October 1st, 2020, Twitter crashed in Japan, North America, and Europe. Users were unable to post anything, but Sakurai notes that when Twitter was back online, he received a massive amount of feedback from worldwide players. He was surprised he was unable to retweet or follow up on official tweets from Nintendo. Steve should already be available in this column, blah, blah, blah. On to how Minecraft made it into Smash. Sakurai notes that while it may seem crazy to rely so heavily on Minecraft, the concepts for the fighter and stage came relatively easily. Sakurai is very familiar with Minecraft and understands the game well. However, the more Sakurai relies on the original game, the more difficult it was to actually make a new fighter fit in Smash. The team had to balance what was possible to create while making Steve unique, ensuring that he wouldn't lose the charm from the original series, all the while not making him unbalanced compared to other fighters. Even though they both fall under the Microsoft umbrella, the developer and department in charge of the characters differed from Banjo and Kazooie. When the idea was presented to Microsoft, they were very pleased. Steve might be a bit difficult for new players to handle at first. As Minecraft had a wide fan base, Sakurai considered increasing the fighter accessibility a bit. However, if the Smash team did that, then it wouldn't feel like Steve came from Minecraft, and he would lose some of his freshness of the character. Also, since Minecraft is a complex game, it seemed fitting to make the character more dynamic. And of course, one of the big pieces going around is that Sakurai wanted to actually import the stage from Minecraft literally, but it proved to be too much of a challenge. So yes, some nice tidbits in there. What do you think of stuff in there?
I really think that it is interesting that this was something that they had planned first and then approached Microsoft for, because it just shows that Nintendo really wanted to have Minecraft in the game, just from they knew that it would bring in a lot of attention, and that they went to Microsoft for it, because I think some people think that this was all advertising, blah blah blah, and that's that is partially true, because they knew this would be a very big character with a big appeal, but it's not like Microsoft directly wanted approached them to have the character in the game or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. And again, obviously what's it called? Oh, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say, and then the fact about how they tried to make the character work within the balance of the game. Yeah. And I think definitely when you because it's actually kind of crazy, because when you were just watching and reading what Steve could do, you were a lot of people were wait, that's crazy broken, no one can do that, that's insane, blah blah blah. And now that he's been out for a while, there is some of the stuff he can do is still super unique, still super interesting, but he doesn't feel ostensibly broken, you know what I mean?
No, he's not broken. Yeah, he's just really powerful and unique if you know how to use him.
Yeah.
He's not. I wouldn't put him in the category of like. It has not ever entered the category of banned hero from tournaments or something like that. So even though he's powerful, it's like he's not that like crazy. And again, really cool just how obviously like what we've talked about before of like they clearly considered making him have like unique animations that fit Smash, but then they were like, no, that would like obviously Sakurai loves to be very meticulous with how the character represents their game, so he didn't want to do that. So really cool how they did that. And again, the stage thing is really fun. How like they actually wanted to import a stage straight up from Minecraft, but they couldn't, which is really funny.
And what also was cool was like he was talking about like what if there was a level editor where you could make a stage in Minecraft and put it in Smash, and that would have been like, imagine if you had like the Switch version of Minecraft. Like imagine if it was like, oh, do you want to import? Like that'd be super sick. Like I understand so like that the amount of programming that would probably be required to do that would be insane, and I would not imagine, I couldn't even imagine how hard that would have been. So I don't blame Sakurai for cutting that.
Yeah, absolutely not. And also, since last time we did this, they removed Steve's meat from his victory animation.
Yeah, they removed the meat.
The meat is gone.
I have a feeling I have a feeling that even though we're all memeing like, oh, like it's because people were making, sex jokes about it or whatever. I personally think that he does eat the steak. I think it was just a visual glitch that they forgot to like have him actually eat it completely.
That could be that, because like the thing is like it's one of those things of like in that someone was making a comparison of like in the game he's like holding it a little higher up, whereas like there's something about how it looked in Smash. Yeah, it's like I feel like it could be. Yeah, you're right. It could be that he just didn't finish eating it, but I don't necessarily. Because doesn't he have a victory animation?
He has a taunt where he eats it, and he doesn't have it still. So I'm thinking it's just an oversight. Even though I'm sure it's half and half. Where it's like he was supposed to eat it, but also like they probably knew that people were making jokes about it.
Because it really like it's one of those things of like I can't even like defend that it didn't look inappropriate. Like it really. Yeah,
I know.
It's really weird. But yeah, so that's gone now. So shout out to people who for some reason don't want to update their game forever, so they have the meat. Someone's doing that 100%. Like someone just has their physical copy and they're just not gonna update it and buy just a different copy of the game or something so that they can play it. That's hilarious. That version of Smash will always be preserved. But yeah, so let's dive into our topics. We're gonna do this week Subspace versus World of Light. Now these two are basically the two major campaigns Smash has ever had. Smash 4 didn't really have one. Smash 64 didn't really have one. Melee had Adventure Mode, but like these are kind of the two like big ones where there's like a shit ton of hours of content. There's a map, there's bosses too, and everything. So I feel like before we dive into obviously one versus the other, let's kind of just go give our thoughts on both. So let's start with Subspace. So Ultimate, what do you think about Subspace Emissary in general?
I think Subspace is one of the most iconic things to Smash just in general. I think even people who didn't grow up with Brawl, they are aware of Subspace and they're like, man, Subspace, that was so cool. Like, to see all the cutscenes of the characters interacting, all the references with the bosses. Like, I think Subspace is something that even people who never played Brawl will look at and be like, yes, this is what Smash is about. You know what I mean?
Subspace, like, man, Subspace for me is such like a childhood throwback of like, there was something special about like, especially this is before the era of like, like obviously I'm sure there were leaks, but like this is before the era of leaks or like people watching cutscenes, like people watching Let's Plays and stuff like that. So going into this campaign of a Smash game with like the basically the dream, which is like these crossover characters actually interacting, right, and having like story cinematics together and everything. And it's like, and this idea of like Smash, because we've always like, Smash has always felt a bit like an action party thing, but to make it almost like a 2D action platformer was always a really unique idea and really fun. And obviously it's one of those things of over the years, it's funny, like, when I was a kid, just like a lot of things, I would have thought, like, everyone adored this thing. Everyone thought it was amazing. Everyone thought it was, like, fantastic. But then you grow up and you see, like, people be like, wait, no, a lot of this, like, sucks. Like, just a lot of these levels aren't fun. Some of these, like, drag on forever. It's frustrating. It's like, it kind of got, like, there's kind of like a mixed reception about it.
Yeah, and I will say, I think it's something that was novel at the time, but going back to it, it hasn't aged as well as you would hope.
Oh, definitely.
There are a lot of just, like, outdated design elements. Like, yeah, some levels go on forever. Some enemies feel like they are just meant to waste your time. Like, I remember, like, on higher difficulties, because you get more rewards and you need to clear it for completion's sake. And like, there are like, there's definitely like some elements that they just feel unfair. Like, there's some enemies that are like rooms or that are just like a big enemy horde, and you're like, okay, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm just going to take damage here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it was so interesting. Like, I really think of that game. Like, it's like, to me, it's funny. It's almost like for Subspace, the cutscenes are like more important for the game, you know? Like, everybody thinks about just the funny, like, there's so many cutscenes in that game. Like, what are your favorite ones? Because there's like so many
well, there's
good
the classic of like Diddy Kong dragging Fox with him.
So
I mean,
funny.
that's like such an iconic image. Like fucking Peach and Zelda having tea on the fucking halberd.
Yeah,
it was
weird.
It was chic. That was crazy. When the ancient minister is like revealed to be like the Robs, that's like also crazy too.
That is so cool. When there's like the like there's like a million Game & Watches too on halberd, which is really funny.
Yeah, and then of course the most iconic one is when you're about to fight the final boss Taboo, and then it's just Sonic.
It's just Sonic. But
there he is. Yeah. He wasn't there the whole time, but there he is now.
That was like my childhood moment of like, oh my fucking god. It's just so fun. Yeah, even like I'm like scrolling through these, like, even Diddy Kong also drags Falco, which is just really funny. Like, that's just like a continued bit. And even the Captain Falcon like killing Pikmin is the funniest and weirdest thing. Like, I'm looking at this, it's so
yeah, where he crashes the ship into all the Pikmin. Yeah, that's so iconic, because he even does the Falcon Punch, which is like really funny because it's kind of like the one he did in the anime. You know, the really epic one where he jumps out of the vehicle. So there's there's a lot of cool references, and it was also really cool to see like Nintendo's roster of villains actually acting like villains. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because they're like pretty evil there, and even like just seeing weird crossovers again. Like Pikachu and Samus had like a whole story thing together, which was super weird and interesting. Meta Knight and fucking Marth have this like weird friendship, which continues.
Yeah, which is like all the sword characters all sort of like hung out together and then fought in that like big palace. Like, that was like super cool. Like, again, there's no dialogue, and honestly, I do wish that some of the characters could have like actually talked or like reacted outside of emotional, but you can sort of get through their body language and their faces about you know how what they're like, you know, would be saying, or et cetera, et cetera. Like, it was just nice to see the characters interact in some capacity. I think that's what people care about the most.
Yeah, and like I really like, it was kind of sad to see, obviously, like, because to this day, one of the weirdest things that Sakurai has ever said is that thing where he's like, yeah, I wanted to do less cutscenes because they would like leak on, like they would be online, people could watch them. I'm like, well, every game's cutscenes go online. I mean, that doesn't mean every game should not have cutscenes and stuff. Like, that was always such a
well, yeah, I mean, and it's kind of funny because, like you said, this is around the era of like, well, like, this is like, you know, really early era of YouTube. There were not a lot of people like who had access to game capture.
Exactly.
So yeah, people were uploading the cutscenes, but like, you know, and I remember watching videos of the Final Smashes too from the Japanese version because it came out here so late. But like, a lot of people like, you know, like did not have you know, access to that, and certainly like, you know, people still like really enjoyed it regardless. You know, even if they were uploaded online, it's not like people weren't like enjoying the game for what it was and enjoying the cutscenes. And
exactly.
I really like, I don't know why that line of thinking you know, was applied there, because I think that was like the first time that really happened. You know what I mean? I think that's why Sakurai thought that way, because that was the first time that was happening.
Yeah, it's really odd. Like, it's like, and then obviously, like, they clearly, I mean, obviously the idea of CG, like, trailers for these characters and stuff translated to character reveals, right? They clearly decided to, instead of just have them as in-game things, they're like, let's just make them how you reveal characters with these big, unique, like, CG cutscenes, the way people liked it back then. But obviously, like, they're, like, could you have imagined, I mean, we'll get to it once we wrap up a bit of talk on Subspace. Like, could you imagine, like, in Smash Ultimate having like all CG trailers consistently through that campaign? Like, that would have been insane. Like, CG gameplay with all, like, especially how big the roster is. Like, now being able to see Cloud and Snake interact, or seeing, like, I don't know, Sonic and Mega Man hang out. Like, it would have been so cool to see these weird crossovers and stuff. But but
I do have to say, like, obviously the influence of Subspace has bled into those the character reveal trailers, because the character reveal trailers are very much, these are the characters interacting that would make sense to interact. And here's them, like, doing stuff that would be in character for them.
Yeah, exactly. It's cool. And yeah, like, again, like I said, like, to wrap, like, kind of my thoughts on Subspace, like, kind of, the level design varies. It can be frustrating. Sometimes it can be fun. There were some unique ideas in there, like levels where, like, you're climbing up ramps. Like, to me, the idea is cool. Like, I love the idea of a platform, because of, like, just the nature of Smash allows it to be a platformer. You have, like, every character has a double jump. You have an up B for extra height, and obviously you could fight a bunch of enemies. Like, to me, I love the idea of having a platformer, but at the same time, it is a fighting game, and people, I mean, which we're gonna get to, is, like, just mostly want to get into fights. That's kind of what people want to do. But again, the idea is really cool, and I feel like if one day, right, they were ever like, we're remaking Subspace, or they're doing something new, it's like, I feel like it could be a much better campaign if they cut off, like, a lot of the fat of the levels, or made some enemies less annoying, or stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it is, in retrospect, there are some really bloated elements. I mean, I'm not even gonna begin to discuss the fucking Great Maze, which
is, my god, yeah.
One of, like, it is one thing where it's just a big fucking maze, and, like, okay, sure, but why do you have to take away all the fucking characters again? Like, because, like, at that point, you had already busted your ass trying to unlock everyone to play as, and then they just take it away from you again? Come on! It was such a waste of time!
Yeah, dude, that fucking, the Great Maze, I remember I would go to my friend's house, we played together, and it was, like, the worst thing ever. It was, like, frustrating, it was annoying. I hate that level. It's so bad. What a horrible way to, like, get to the end of that campaign. So, yeah, Subspace, great idea. I think flawed a lot in execution, but still some cool concepts, some cool fights in there. Really love that. And then, yeah, World of Light, which is the other massive one, because Smash 4 decided to dip on a good single player. That is kind of the next big one. And I think, this one's really interesting, because I feel like it's this one, just kind of like Subspace, it's divisive, right? Where it's not necessarily like, it's so weird, because obviously it's using the idea of spirits, which is, like, a thing you could do, whether, like, in basically just arcade style or in the campaign. To me, I personally preferred this, aside, like, I would have loved if this had cutscenes and more moments, but to me, I preferred this because it was just, like, an excuse to just do a bunch of fights, especially towards, like, the launch of the game, when, like, this isn't the time yet, or, like, this is kind of an not easy, but it's, like, it's kind of a weird way to, like, mess with a lot of the characters, play with a lot of characters, have fun there. Like, I think there's a lot of cool ideas in the campaign of World of Light, just because obviously spirit battles are meant to, like, emulate character scenarios and moments, and it was so cool how you go to a Donkey Kong Country area, a Street Fighter area, stuff like that. Like, what do you think about World of Light?
So I think World of Light, I honestly think it's something that is easier to go back to, but not necessarily something that people want to play. Like, again, you know what I mean? Like, people will finally remember Subspace, and sometimes people will go back to it and be like, yeah, this is a really cool idea, even if, like, it's not as fun to play as anymore. A lot of people have just, that I've talked to personally even, have just been like, yeah, I never even, like, bothered. I stopped,
most
like,
have
halfway
not
through.
beat that.
Most people have not beaten World of Light. Even when you tell people, they're like, hey, there's a second world in World of Light. People are like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. No, dude. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I genuinely, like, if you looked at the completion rate of World of Light, it would probably be, like, 10 maybe percent. Like, I don't even then, I don't know if it would be more than 10 to 15%. Because that's a big issue people have with World of Light, is that it's so long. Like, it really is, like, it is long. If you want to do every fight, if you want to find everything, if you want to solve some of the puzzles in there, like, that thing can go on for, like, 15 to 20 hours, maybe. Like, now, granted, I didn't mind that, especially because at launch, I just wanted to. It's one of those things whenever a Smash comes out, especially like in modern times, I want to do all the single player stuff like in the first month or two, and then I move on to obviously online stuff because I know that's what's going to be the bulk of my gameplay anyways. So for me, it was like I didn't mind it. Now, granted, were there some frustrating fights in there? Yeah. Was the idea of like powering up your character and having a skill tree really cool? Yeah, like that's what I mean. Like it's like it has a lot of cool ideas and concepts. Like the idea of, again, like a fighting game where you have a skill tree and you're leveling up and you're powering up in fights and you have to use different spirits in different fights. Now, granted, that doesn't end up mattering much because you always, like, unless you're a psychopath, you always press the auto balance thing that like picks the best setup that you can have for that fight. But again, a lot of the ideas are cool, and like I liked how sometimes, like, one of the areas, or one of my favorite areas in the game is like it's a Street Fighter area based, I think, on Street Fighter 2.
Yes, and it is a Street Fighter 2. Yeah, it is exactly. Straight up just a Street Fighter 2, like how you travel across the globe for all the fights. Yeah, absolutely. Like there's a lot of cool moments like that. But I do want to bring it to attention how you're like, oh, well, you power up your fighter, blah, blah, blah. There were stickers. You had stickers in Subspace Emissary. Right. And stickers are basically spirits. Like, in like everything but name only. You know what I mean?
Basically.
So there were ways to power up all your fighters in Subspace. Just out, like, So obviously World of Light does have that skill tree, which is cool. But, like, at the end of the day, like, the skill tree, even though I did, like, spend the time to, like, get, like, all the deeper unlocks, like double final smash or like hyper smash attacks, it didn't feel like it added that much depth. It was just like, oh, I'm slightly strong. It didn't feel like, I wish they went more in on the skill tree. You know what I mean? I wish the skill tree did crazier stuff to your character, Yeah,
because you could have stuff like, like you get a final smash earlier, or like your jump is higher, stuff like that. It's like, I definitely think they could have fleshed that out more. It's weird. Like I said, it's like, and I like there was another area that I really like, which is I think it's the Monster Hunter area, where like you have to like chase Rathalos through the map and like you're fighting enemies to get towards them, which is really cool. But like, yeah, it's so weird. And I think, again, the biggest issue people have is lack of like cutscenes, like, because obviously I think the World of Light reveal trailer is like one of the best just Smash video trailers ever. The one where everybody gets wiped. Because, like, it's so fucked up, but again, it's still got, like, it's got so many little things you can pick apart, right?
Yeah, no, I think that cutscene was incredible, and honestly, I think that cutscene, just for the fact that it had the characters talking, I think that was, like, if I were to put that cutscene next to, like, almost all of the cutscenes from Subspace, I'd say that one cutscene is almost as good as, like,
it's fantastic.
All the cutscenes, because not only do you have all the characters together, they also sort of talk. They also, like, have little interactions together that, like, work with their character that are very subtle. Like, he's Snakes in the Box. Sonic trying to say Pikachu because he's always about, like, protecting animals. That sort of thing.
Palutena fades away, so Pit and Dark Pit lose their wings, which is just like,
just really small stuff like that. You know?
Like I love all those details, or like the Inkling shooting the ground so that they can hide in it, which is like so funny. It's like all those little cool details are so. Or even what's it called, like Bayonetta trying to do her witch time to like fade away from like the light. So it's like a really cool touch like that, and like I think. When people saw that initial cutscene and when it was first revealed, people were like, oh shit, okay, so we're going to have a full campaign with like a bunch of these cutscenes. And then like, it's like, what? There's like another one where what? It's like it's when they open the dimension to the dark world and they look up. There's also that really weird like dark ending one where they like look up to the sky and everything's fucked, which is like really weird. And yeah, I don't think. Do you even have you? I mean, you have the ones with.
Well, Galeem. Yeah, the remaining cutscenes are just like stuff with Galeem and Darkon.
Yeah.
They're not. There's not really anything else with the characters. Like,
yeah, exactly. It's really weird.
Except at the end when they're all looking in victory. Like that's the only other time they're together.
Exactly. It's really odd. And like, here's my thing though. I will say this: Galeem and Darkon, right? That's what they're called. Are really creepy. Like it's one of the. I would definitely say, like, one of the most unsettling in general, just, like, villains. Because, like, okay, first you fight Galeem, right? And that's, like, okay, that's a cool fight. They have, like, unique animation. Then you fight Darkon, right? Then it's, like, there's, like, that towards the end where, like, you have that one fight where they're just fighting back and forth. Like, the idea of, like, this massive entity, which is, like a dark versus light, literally, and they're an entity and, like, they're trying to fight each other off, is like a really cool idea. I remember one of the funniest thing was like, I think it was like Matt Pat when he did his game theory. One of them was just like Galeem and his like Sakurai at his like wanting to end Smash, and like Darkon is like Sakurai wanting to be done with Smash, and Galeem is him wanting to continue, which is like a really funny idea.
I think Galeem and Darkon. I think what sets them apart from like Taboo, because Taboo was weird. Like, who the fuck? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean?
Really
like
freaky.
Taboo was like just like some abstract fucking dude. Like, it'd be one thing because, like, you know, it was always like theorized, like, you know, the hands are like kids playing with their toys.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, what is Taboo? Like, I don't even know what Taboo is supposed to mean.
And that was a million hands.
At least, but I would say like Galeem and Darkon. Yeah, they're like eldritch, like fucking. Like outer entity horrors that are like representative of like they're very abstract, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I think the abstractness is what makes them very weird.
Yeah.
I just I will say, like, I will compare like I do think their final fight segment at the end where you're like trying to make balance and then you like play as Master Hand and you have to watch Galeem and Darkon fight. You're on a stage while they fight. I enjoyed that a lot more than Taboo, because Taboo. Like, he just was, like, sort of there. Like, who's Taboo? Like, what the fuck? You
exactly.
know?
It just kind of shows. Yeah, it's like, because obviously, like, you are consistently dealing with Darkon and Galeem throughout the game. Like, obviously, you go to the Dark World, which also, like, that was one other issue I have with what's it called? The World of Light, is some of the puzzles are, like, annoying. And, like, I'm like, how the fuck would I have figured it out? Like, one of them was, like, the time puzzles for, like, the Zelda area. And I had to YouTube that because I was like, this is frustrating and just not fun, especially in a campaign where the point really is like just go through fights, right? It's like it's weird to stop it through this weird like map puzzle and shit, you know?
I did like that though. I had to look up what the fuck I was supposed to do. I'm not gonna lie, but I did like that there was like a Zelda-esque puzzle.
I like the idea. Because sometimes finding the character, because obviously you're finding characters to unlock. I'm like, how the fuck would I have found this one? There's like no way. And that'll always be a weird thing in games like that. But yeah, like, no, the idea is really cool, and obviously it's got really cool bosses. I like that there's the Dracula area, which is really fucking dope. Even those puzzles can be annoying, but like the fight to fight Dracula at the end is really cool. And yeah, like that. But in general, the final battle is epic. Where like you're having the big orchestrated version of the Smash theme, and it's very fucked up and dark, and you're climbing up this tower. You're fighting shadow versions of characters, and then you see them fighting in the background, and you're fighting them too. It's like it's
now. Actually, now that you bring that up with the bosses, that is one thing that I did like that Subspace did over World of Light. Was I felt the bosses in Subspace, the bosses were integrated into the story very well. Like, you would see them, they were built up, and then you finally get a fight with them, or they had context of you know, why they were there.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, there are some, like, short cutscenes with the bosses in World of Light, and I do think that the overall, like, the quality of the bosses are higher, but it just feels like, you know, they're just there. They're just there. Like, even though, like, okay, you fight Giga Bowser in, like, the Bowser Castle, like, area, but, like, why is there a Bowser Castle? What is Bowser there for? You know what I mean? Like, that context is lost. And so I really like how Subspace integrated all of the bosses.
Yeah, exactly. Again, having a story with it like makes it add more sense. Like obviously it's cool that you have what's it called, Dracula, like in the Castlevania area, which is really cool, and he gets a mini cutscene and stuff, and it's cool like that first time when you beat him, you're like, oh, I beat him, and then his fucking like his second form comes up, you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, which is such a cool thing. Or Ganon obviously coming back as Pig Ganon, which is really dope. So yeah, some cool stuff like that. And yeah, like I said, I think that's kind of where the comparisons come, where like Subspace does a better job at like make it like Subspace has the better idea of like a campaign of like you are going through this journey, right? But a lot of the levels cannot be fun. Now, granted, not all the levels are fun in World of Light, because some of those spirits suck ass. Like there's some really bad spirit battles that are really frustrating. Obviously, like one of the most hated ones is like the Pauline one, I think, right? Is that the one?
Yeah, that was definitely one of the most hated ones. God, there was one that like took me a while because I just like it was so obnoxious.
One of them was the Dr. Wily
At the time, I didn't have strong enough spirits.
Yeah.
I think the Dr. Wily one definitely took me. I got a few tries. That one was annoying
evil,
to me.
Yeah. So, but again, it was still so cool the first time playing them and be like, oh, I understood how they did this. Oh, I get how they did this fight. Oh, that's really clever. It's like it's
yeah, and you also had really cool ways of like interacting with the map in World of Light. Like,
for sure.
Like you have to find the robbed spirit to repair the Great Fox, and you get on the Great Fox and you go to space. There are really cool like little details like that.
Yeah.
But I think those little like really cool moments, like you saw, like the Street Fighter one, that one was really cool.
Yeah.
Those little moments don't make up for like the staleness of just you're walking on a predetermined path most of the time. You know.
Yeah. I like to think I'm one of the.
And I just think that as cool as it is, I think the second world with dark, where you know the Dark Realm.
Yeah.
I think it's cool, but I think at that point it's overstaying its welcome. I think.
Yeah.
They needed to sort of like either condense it or like have something to break it up, because like just going straight into just another world of the same is just like okay.
Yeah, know? No, I'll never forget that. It'd be like, oh shit, okay, I'm at the end, and then you go to this dark area. I'm like, oh my fucking god, there's so much left. Because you know, like it's kind of the JRPG thing, right? Where you're like, okay, I'm at the final boss. I'm gonna beat this game tonight. And then you just see that there's 5 to 8 hours left, and you're like, oh my fucking god, I did not see this coming. But yeah, no, it's like, it definitely drags on a bit towards that ending, especially when they add that, like, because then there's that last map they have, which is like the balance one, right? Where you have to balance which ones you fight. And I remember the first time, like, doing that, being like, okay, you could easily not get the true ending if you watch that cutscene and you think you beat the game, which is really weird. Like,
yeah, it is true. Yeah, that too.
There's no real indication that they don't tell you like, oh, balance them out for the true ending. It's like, it kind of feels like, because logically most people will be like, oh, I'm gonna obviously go to the light, like let the light win, and then the light wins, and then you see the cutscene like, okay, we saved the world, GG.
Yeah.
So really weird.
I do like that there are multiple endings, though. That is, I do like that, you know, that's something you're supposed to figure out, because, you know, of course, Subspace is of course linear, where it's just you fight Taboo.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like, I don't know. They both, I would say Subspace and World of Light do both waste your time in some ways, but Subspace, except with the exception of Great Maze, Subspace doesn't feel like it's wasting your time as much, you know? And I think part of that is, like, Subspace, you were always unlocking things, like, all the time playing Subspace, you know?
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is, like, I feel like also World of Light, it's like, okay, I think you get way more enjoyment out of it playing it right when you get the game, as opposed to if you went online and played with your friends and unlocked the characters, then went to World of Light. Because I think that's like a big difference there. Because I remember, like, for me, it was the thing of like, oh yeah, like I feel like I'm basically unlocking the characters through the story, which is really cool. So I think you definitely get more enjoyment out of doing that. I don't know why I beat the game on New Game Plus 2. I might be one of the 20 people that did that. But again, like, I had fun with it because it was just an excuse to play the game. You know, a lot of the times I would have a podcast on while I was playing it. But I do think, like I said, I think I personally especially with like just being old, like had more enjoyment out of World of Light just on a gameplay standpoint, because it's just, hey, here's a bunch of battles and they've got unique scenarios, as opposed to Subspace where it's like I remember the story more fondly and like the ideas more fondly. So they definitely have kind of both a thing or two in there that's very odd, you know.
Yeah, because like with Subspace, like especially when you're playing on the higher difficulties to get the better, stickers, and obviously like you for points and completion sake, there are moments where you're just like, there is nothing I could have done. I just fucking die.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the thing about Subspace, dying in Subspace compared to World of Light, I will say World of Light, at least if there are like stupid spirit battles that are just annoying, and you lose, you come back later, or like you just feed your spirit, or you figure something out. In Subspace, it's just like you lose so much time and progress, and you lose like all your shit when you die too.
Sure, yeah.
Like when you're trying to get like the trophy bases to collect all the enemies as trophies, which I think was a cool idea, but was just more frustrating in execution than I would have hoped it would have been.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially with bosses. Trying to get fucking bosses and waiting for the fucking trophy stand, and you have to kill them with the trophy stand? Oh my god, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
I much prefer just getting the fucking spirit of the boss. But again, they both waste your time, but I think Subspace is infinitely more frustrating, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. I like I said, it's like I feel like there is a perfect world. The perfect world is like World of Light being shorter with those CG cutscenes from Subspace. I think to me that's the best of both worlds, because like I don't need the platforming level stuff. Maybe you could have had some to me the perfect world is okay. You have a shit ton of fight levels, you have some of the platform action levels, you have boss levels, and you have CG cutscenes. To me, that's perfect world where that is like, that could be peak Smash campaign. Instead, we have two campaigns that are beloved for different reasons, but also hated for many reasons, you know?
Yeah, I honestly think I agree. If there was some sort of middle ground between Subspace and World of Light, it'd be perfect. Like, exactly. If you had a map that, some of the spirit fights, keep getting fighters through that, have an explorable map, but then break it up. Like if there was map, fight, oh, you go over here, you go through a platforming section, and then here's a cutscene before before a boss, or here's a cutscene before you get a character, or when you enter a new area.
Dude,
it doesn't even have to be you don't have to go full Subspace level cutscene or interaction or platforming. Just have some of those elements in a World of Light scenario, and maybe make it a bit of a shorter campaign, and I think it'd be perfect,
Exactly, yeah. And again, we know a lot of that is just that Sakurai said this of CG trailers nowadays cost a shit ton of money, and they're investing that in the character reveals, which nowadays the character reveal is basically it's basically a massive moment for the game, it's basically a massive marketing beat. Those trailers get millions on millions of views. They're making money just off character reveal trailers too. So there's definitely more of an emphasis on that, and I'm happy about that. I would rather have, obviously the Sonic trailer for Brawl is iconic, but it's not like this. If Sonic was announced today, he would have gotten this crazy CG trailer. Which would have been insane, as opposed to, alright, let's throw the characters in-game footage, which was that was so weird about Smash 4, right? Where it's it's almost like they had half of a budget, where they were oh, I guess give it to Bowser Jr. Don't give one to Bayonetta. Use in-game stuff for Bayonetta. Actually, all the DLC characters in Smash 4 don't have a CG trailer. Which made it less.
Korn has the fucking curse. What do you want to do, Joyce? You're
right. Yeah.
That's a story for a different day. It is funny. Okay, so I will say this. I do think it's hard. Here's the thing. Even though I have heavily disagree that because you can upload cutscenes online, that means you shouldn't have them. Yeah, I heavily disagree, but when was the last time you looked up Subspace cutscenes online? I don't remember, but you know what I do remember? I will go back and watch fucking Smash CG reveal trailers.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I will. Exactly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
That has such staying power, and in your head. It just lives in your head. You're just oh man, remember like, oh, you know, it's Banjo, like, you know, blah blah blah. They did the same thing that they did with K. Rool, like that sort of thing. You're like, that sticks with you. Yeah, there are really memorable cutscenes in Subspace, but when was the last time you seriously went back and watched any of them? I can't remember the last time I watched them.
I did it today just for this podcast. So,
but like prior, nobody goes back and really watches those cutscenes. Like everyone fondly remembers those cutscenes. Yeah. Nobody really goes back and watches them. You know.
It's hilarious and weird. Yeah, like it's definitely it's a weird
that's what I'm saying. I think Sakurai. You know, I disagree with his reasoning, but I do think that having really big CG animated trailers for all of the revealed fighters ultimately makes more sense and is more exciting for most players, because players will go back and watch those trailers. Yeah. But you know, people don't really go back and watch those cutscenes necessarily. You know.
Exactly. Yeah. It's definitely a unique situation there, but yeah, I think that's kind of the comparisons. Yeah, like I said, it's like. I do hope for whatever one day next Smash game is, or reboot or whatever, that they do what we said, which is like this nice middle ground of some story elements, because again, like obviously a massive part of Smash that people would love is like there's so many crossover characters that you want to, I mean, that's always been the massive appeal of, that's why crossover stuff is always one of the most popular things ever, just because the idea of worlds mixing is just so fucking sick. So to even not only just have them in a fighting game together, but to have them interacting is just like fantastic. And I think that's where a lot of the appeal of Subspace came back in the day, or in the modern day trailers. It's so exciting to see and so fun to see in there. So
yeah, and actually, one last point, real quick. When you say about, you know, how the characters are interacting, a lot of Subspace was Smash original stuff, like the enemies. A lot of all the enemies were just like rejected Kirby enemies, like, or just like slight references like to other like Nintendo, like the Voltorb looking fuckers, but like there was like the weird like wheel and like the pyramids, like shit. No, obviously the pyramids are like memorable now, but they were just, a lot of it was just Smash original stuff. And a lot of people wanted like what Smash 4 gave us with Smash Run, where it's like, oh, the enemies are all characters from, you know, Nintendo games. Like people really wanted that, you know what I mean?
That I would have loved to see like come back in some way. Like that was the one cool idea of Smash 4, was that the enemies being like, oh, this is the enemy from Kid Icarus. It's like a Mario enemy. This is this enemy, you know?
Yeah. So like. I that is the one thing I did like with World of Light, was like there were references to other games like constantly, you know what I mean? Because like outside of like the bot, like, you know, Subspace had like, there was Rayquaza and like Ridley, and were those like the only like bosses that were like Nintendo characters? Like I think they're Petey, yeah, those three,
and the fucking pig, right?
Oh, Porky, yeah. So, like, so you had those, but, like, every single fight besides, like, Gallium in World of Light is, like, a reference. The map references the games constantly. All the spirit battles are references to the games, and are, like, just sort of standing for enemies. So, like, I think, you know, if Subspace had more Smash Run elements, I think people would also more finally remember it, because they'd be like, oh yeah, the enemy, because like there was like the Mario enemies, and that's like about it in Subspace Emissary, you know.
So yeah, that's kind of it. Again, it's one of those, it's a fun topic to talk about and stuff. So I hope guys in the comments, I hope you let us know which one you prefer, which one you remember fondly, which one have you beaten them, have you gone back to them, let us know all your thoughts in there. That's gonna wrap it up for this week. We'll be back, of course, next week or sometime. I'm Fidel, your host as always, Ultimate Shadow X. You can find him on Twitter at Ultimate Shadow X. Find me on Twitter on the down low though. Subscribe here for more and all that jazz. Thank y'all for watching. We'll see y'all next week. Peace out.
Peace.